So this year I watched the Netflix animated show Bojack Horseman, and I really liked it, and I like seeing what other people think about it because I think it's a really deep and really funny show. But I think everyone who likes this show, because it is often about such messed up, unlikable people, has a moment where, in the words of one character, they just want to say, "It's too much, man." Or maybe more, this fucking guy. And I wanted to talk about my moment from the show where I just realized I love this show, but sometimes it's too much, man. And it's a moment that came pretty late in the show for me, and it's one that I haven't seen a lot of people make videos about, so here I am making my own little analysis video about the Bojack Horseman show and the episode, and the moment in that episode that just made me like... So the episode that really got me and made me angry was one that comes pretty late in the last season. It's an episode called Horny Unicorn. And in this episode, Bojack, the main character, who's this washed up actor who has done many terrible things both during the show and before the show, is finally getting a lot of pretty well-deserved hate from the public now that many of his terrible actions have come to light. One major regret that Bojack has is that he hasn't been a good enough mentor and friend to younger women who are in his life or have somehow become part of his orbit as a well-known person in Hollywood. In particular, there's one situation with a family friend, a young high school student named Penny, who he develops a cute friendship with, and then she develops a short-term crush on him, and she actually does make some innocent advances to him, which he does not shut down in the way that he knows he should as the older person and as the person who knows this is not a good situation. And eventually they make out, and Bojack knows that was not good, and he knows that they should not have gone any further, but he also knows that they well could have if they hadn't been interrupted by another character. And he realizes that's a place where he fell down. He could have been a much better friend and mentor than he was. And he feels bad that this innocent friendship turned into something that could be a really bad memory for his friend Penny. So that's something we're supposed to bear in mind during season 6, and it's something that does come up earlier in the season along with some other bad things that he's done as being one of the moments he regrets the most out of many selfish and bad things that he's done. Because a lot of his friends are distancing themselves from him, and a lot of other people in Hollywood think negatively of him, and a lot of the public thinks negatively of him, he ends up befriending another actor, a character created for the show called Vance Wagner, who is sort of a satire on Charlie Sheen and Mel Gibson and other actors who are famous for being terrible in a really over-the-top and comical way, and who often somehow still get work by apologizing, even though it doesn't seem like they're sincere or that they actually want to change. So that's the kind of character that Vance is. He's the stereotype of a Hollywood douchebag who's self-centered and has terrible views and treats others badly, but somehow gets forgiven because he's famous and he makes money. Near the end of the episode, Bojack and Vance end up on a college campus in this party with a lot of heavy drinking. It's very chaotic, and Bojack is feeling down because people in his life are rejecting him, and his only friend now is this other terrible guy. So when Bojack is at a pretty low point, Vance walks up with his arm around a young student and she's just kind of taking selfies of herself and Vance, and what he says is something to the effect of, "Hey Bojack, I'm just gonna walk this co-ed back to her dorm. Better be careful, there's creeps out there. Better be careful, there's creeps out there." And then the two of them just walk off. And I think the main feeling we're left with this scene is that Vance is not a good friend. Bojack has no one at all. And then this sends him into a downward spiral for the rest of the episode. But after I finished watching that episode, I sort of had this moment about the scene. So after I finished watching that episode, Horny Unicorn, that ends at the party and with the actor Vance walking off with this young, maybe 20-year-old student, was that Bojack just watches them walk away. And we never know like how this student feels about Vance and going back to probably have sex with him. It's clear that we're supposed to read this as sexual, and that we're supposed to read this as Vance's motivations not being good. Obviously, the joke is that when he says, "Watch out, there's creeps out there," he is the creep. It's obviously him lying and misrepresenting the situation. But this actually could be a really bad experience for the student. And sure, like, we don't know what she's feeling about the situation. It could be that if Bojack had said something, then she would have said, "Excuse me, random Mr. Horse, you should not slut shame me, an empowered young 21-year-old college student who can do what she wants." And then he would have been embarrassed and it would have been really awkward. And it actually, that would be a moment that would fit really well in this show, but that's not what happens. And knowing what we know about Vance, I imagine that if this attractive, much younger woman had explicitly come on to him, he would probably brag about that. Like, "Oh yay, like, I'm so desirable, this person wants me for sex, yay." Like, he seems like someone who wouldn't lie about that unless he felt like he had to lie. So that just makes the whole situation seem really sketchy. So after that episode was over, and I realized from the next couple episodes that this one student character never comes up again, I sort of lost faith that the show knew what it was doing. I could see that from this moment, Bojack has not really grown at all, because he supposedly regrets so much where he wasn't there for other young women. But here he was in a situation where he possibly could have stood up for this young woman who kind of really looks like she's getting into a bad situation that she might regret later. But he doesn't, because it doesn't directly affect him. He's not explicitly involved. If anyone gets in trouble later, it's going to be Vance, not him. He doesn't know this woman. But still, like, if he really were a good person who wanted to help people, he would have noticed her anyway. And what makes me more angry is that I'm not sure we as the audience are supposed to notice this person, even though her situation is such a clear parallel to other major characters we've seen in the show. She's not animated to look particularly out of it or particularly drunk. She's just taking selfies, and maybe she's supposed to look a little bit shallow. But it is more like she's just moving around enough that we register her visually as a character, that we're supposed to really think about what this moment means for Bojack and how totally alone he is. I'm not sure the show realized how terrible it was to explicitly reference how Vance is a creep and then watch him walk off with this young student while Bojack does nothing after he supposedly is sorry for and making mistakes in similar situations. I'm not sure if the writers of the show fully realized that this minor character was a real person and what the ramifications of this moment might have been to her. And that kind of makes me angry, because it was a storytelling moment to hammer in how still messed up and still stuck in his own head the main character was. But they kind of missed it because maybe they didn't really consider this young woman as a full person. And that is why the episode Horny Unicorn is kind of the episode that broke me. So anyway, that was my thoughts. Thanks for watching the video, and if you have Netflix, I would recommend checking out Bojack Horseman because it's a really interesting show. It might make you angry, it's probably will really entertain you too, but either way, I think it's a fun one to check out.